most of us can very quickly and easily put ourselves in a cage with our expectations, again, with our stories and our rules. And part of the soul's purpose, our soul's purpose is to get us out of that cage. Right? Like all of us on a soul level will come into this life saying, I am not going to get into that cage. Right? I'm not going to conform. I'm not, and it's not even out of fighting, but there's so much about our collective and our society that has us trying to fit in and trying to be so much part of what's acceptable that it does mute so much of what's possible. And again, this is my own perception. It doesn't mean it's right, but they kept bringing me back to that conversation with that client, which was a little extreme. I will say this is not how they talk to everyone.
Yeah.
But they were telling him, like, part of the gift right now is that you just need to sit with the idea that you are in a cage, right? But it was like they were bringing him to that place so that he can decide, like, I can't, like,
I want to get out of it.
I can choose to stay in it. I can choose to stay in it, no matter how pretty it looks, right? Or I can choose to actually understand that I'm in a cage and I can get out of it, right? It's like that. And I feel like part of what's happening and what they're saying to this is that life ultimately always tries to bring that perspective to us, like life challenges or life, like it's because it's trying to wake us up into seeing that there is limitation within the four walls that we're living or perceiving life. Not always. There's people like you and I who are very introspective and push and we explore and we, you know what I mean? It's like we're expanding in all different directions. But I think the majority of people don't live life that way. And I don't mean to be in judgment of it. That's not what I'm trying to do at all. But I think
it's true. I mean, people don't live life to their fullest potential. I mean, that's just, that'll go on forever. I mean, as much as we could preach it, I mean, that's going to go on forever. People get into their routines. I mean, that's the simplest way to break it down is the routines, right? They finish school, they go to college, they go to university, they get their college tuition, they have to pay it back, they get a 9-to-5 job, they wake up, they go to work, they're miserable, they come home, they have dinner upon Netflix, start the next day, and that's what they live their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And on weekends, they celebrate it by hanging out, or they think, okay, it's the weekend, come times. Anybody that has that mindset, that this is my mindset. Anybody has a mindset where they're looking at the weekend as a time that, like, oh my God, it's the weekend, is not living to their fullest. I mean, I'm the mindset where it's like Mondays, like, oh, let's go work time. I get excited to start things, to build things, to try new things. And to me, there is no weekend. It's just, we got your 7 days a week, and what are we going to make the most out of every single day, right? But a lot of people, they have that, they become numb, and that's where society puts you in that box. And once you're stuck in that box, it's hard to break out of that system. Whether you got bills, you got mortgages, it's hard to start your own business. It's hard to break through. It's hard once you have a family, you have kids, you got responsibilities, you got food to put on the table, and that goes all the way back to living with no regrets. Because most people, when they do realize what has come about their life or how they're living, sometimes it's a little too late at that point to really do the things they always wanted to do.
Yes. And thank you for sharing that. I'm audibly hearing, and they said it, and I'm like, oh, so I went like that because and they were talking about rules, like, and I recognize that this is something we're similar, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners are similar in this, is that there is a part of certain individuals' soul mission or vision or what they're defining as life being free of the rules, right? It's like there are no rules. There are no rules. But I think that part of that challenge, if we are people who are choosing to live in the idea that there's no rules, I can create and do whatever I choose to, it's kind of like checking in as well periodically. I mean, I do this once a year, right? Once a year. And I actually do it more than once a year. But once a year where I'm like diving deep and I'm like soul searching, like what is hiding inside me that is holding on to a belief, idea, a rule that is keeping me from my next, right? And without fail, something always shows up. but that's part of my commitment, right? It's like, if I'm choosing to live outside of normal rules, then I have to ultimately understand that there's a dualistic part of our experience, right? We're human.
Yeah.
So ultimately, unfortunately, we are going to lean into rules and stories and beliefs, right? And it's like, it's a requirement to kind of check in and step in and check in, not just once or twice, but like as often as possible, so that we can re-guide them.
I do it and sometimes every 8 weeks, sometimes every 3 months max, is I almost dissect what is happening in my life. And then what I do is I call it the breakthrough part, where it's like these are the moments where I look at and I analyze work, relationships, but especially work and stuff, and I'll analyze what things in my life, or what things am I doing in my life personally, business wise, family, that don't need to be there. Because a lot of times we become numb to them, and they're just there, and we just do them because we're so used to doing them, they're routine, and they don't have to be there. And all of a sudden we clear ourselves, we eliminate these things from our schedule, and you realize the freedom it allows. And I also do that with individuals in my life. Every 3 months I look at a list, and certain people in my life, I'm like, do I really need these people in my life? And it's okay, let's delete them out of my life. And doesn't mean I'm never going to talk to them again, but at this point in my life, they're not doing anything that are going to benefit or bring me joy or happiness, or there's nothing I could add to their life at that point. So when I realize that, by eliminating certain people or eliminating certain things from my schedule, you allow yourself this freedom, and all of a sudden you got this open time that you could do something you really enjoy, or you could just, whether it's even just being by yourself. I think having those moments where you're just by yourself